Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're getting our final review of Theories of Emptiness by Evergrey. So here we are back again a week later after listening to this album for a whole week. And I'm just going to say that I did enjoy this album. I think that there's some definite strong points in this album. Definitely in the first half of the week I was really into it. Bit of spoiler alert, it did slip on me, so there are some gripes here. But I think I mentioned this in the last First Impressions video that I went back and listened to some of their older records to see if I can get kind of a vibe of what this band really brought to the table as far as full albums are concerned. And it got me pretty hyped for this. And I was like, oh yeah, these guys are really good. They kind of remind me of Soilwork and they remind me of Scar Symmetry. Those are the two bands I was kind of, putting into this, that this was reminded me of. So this album, I still got those feelings. Those two bands, it's reminding me of those. And I'm just gonna say this out of the gate. This is probably the most accessible album we've reviewed on the channel, I think, as far as metal goes. It's up there. This is very accessible. There's one song with harsh vocals on this album, and that's the one with Jonas Rensky from Catatonia on track number 9 called Cold Dreams. And it's not even that much. It's just a couple parts with some harsh screaming and some harsh vocals. It's not even that harsh. It's very palatable for people that don't like that stuff.
I believe there's like a single scream in another song as well.
Maybe, yeah.
But it's just literally one scream.
Yeah, but either way, this song's very radio friendly. A lot of people would maybe even question if this is metal or not. And there's always debates about that kind of stuff, but that's, I'm digressing on that. I don't want to get into that right now. So as I'm listening to this album, I'm finding obviously things that I'm liking, things that I'm not liking. So I'm trying to focus on different songs and try to pick out highlights and things like this. So just to get some stuff out of the way that I just wasn't the fondest of, there's a few songs that I really tried to kind of get behind, and some of them have little moments and stuff that I like, but it wasn't enough to save the song. And unfortunately, there's a bit of them, like tracks 3, 4, 6, and then the last 3 songs on the album. So we're talking about 6 songs out of 11.
That's about half.
That's about half the album. Now, again, these songs aren't bad songs, they're fine, but when I'm trying to find things that I like about them, it's few and far between. So for example, To Become Someone Else, which is track 3. This song has some cool, it's progressive, it's got some cool progressive natures to it. It kind of gave me a bit of a Sleep Token vibe. If you like that, you might like this song. The middle section is kind of this ethereal thing where it kind of gets all quiet. This song, it's got some decent riffs on it. I was like, this is okay, but it's nothing special. Then you go to like tracks like track number 6, We Are the North. At first I thought this song was okay, but I think it's too soft to be right after the ballad song, which is Ghost of My Hero, track number 5.
Well, what's interesting about that, though, is that it starts off really heavy with the syncopated groove.
It does.
But then they get really hooky and melodic with it.
It does, and the thing, there's a weird juxtaposition with this song because the riffs are very crunchy in this song, but the song just has no oomph to it. Like, it's got no energy. And I was trying to figure out what was wrong there. And I kept getting to this feeling where like, this just isn't working for me. Like it's got some elements there that are kind of working, but the delivery is just not panning out how I think it should.
Just as a little preview for my thoughts, I felt kind of similar throughout kind of the album, and I think I do know why. But
okay,
I'll get
there.
I'll get to there. Just a little preview.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea.
So among listening though, I think the biggest highlight for me throughout the whole album was the vocals. I think the vocals on this album are fantastic. I think the guy's got a great voice. He's got great cadence. There's great, intonations and things like this. So some harmonies, like track number 8, The Night Within, I think is one of the better tracks. And it's got a great hook. The way that they harmonize the vocals at certain points is very tastefully done. And, it has other things in the song that makes it good too, like little synth things during the intros and the pre-choruses and things like that. So, my biggest, yeah, it's nice. And my biggest takeaway from a lot of these songs is how the vocals are just carrying the song and making it pleasing to listen to. And I think that's another reason it makes it accessible, because a lot of times when people who are kind of like, normies, I guess, they don't really like listen to a lot of metal or anything like that. Those kind of people, I feel like, pay more attention to vocals and lyrics. and like listen to the radio and things like that. So these are the kind of songs they could probably, they would appeal to them in that sense.
Yeah,
right.
It's a very accessible album, and a big part of it is because it's very hook-centered.
It is
clear vocals and lyrics, so non-metal heads will be more drawn to an album like this.
Right. So just one last point before I pass the floor to TV Fish. I just want to talk about the song that was the highlight for me on the album.
And that was?
It was, and I'm just going to preface this by saying that this is, again, a surprise, but this isn't the first time this has happened to me. And it's the ballad, Ghost of My Hero. I think it's the best song on this album. And I just think it's so well performed. The vocal performance on it is fantastic. I really like the placement on the album at track number 5. I think that's a perfect placement for a ballad song to be. And there's something about the lyrics that resonated with me. It had there was some emotion there on a personal level. So I think that helps carry the song a bit, and that might be a little bit of bias. But when I'm listening to that whole album and that's the song that keeps standing out as the highlight, what else am I going to say about it, right? So my week was good. I enjoyed listening to the album, but I was just struggling to really find things to really like about it, right? I think it's a decent album, but like, where are the strong points aside from the vocals?
Yeah.
I was having a hard time with that.
So if I'm going to piggyback off of Ghost of My Hero, I do have a note about that. I think it's an acceptable mid-album ballad. Like it serves its purpose well. I kind of found it weird that Say was right before it with kind of how that song kind of goes. But something I noticed at the end of this song is that the humming at the end is the same kind of humming in How to Disappear Completely by Radiohead. Very similar. If you know that song,
I don't know that
you'll
song.
know exactly. If you know that song, go listen to that song. You'll hear the exact same thing in that song. So I just thought that was funny. I'm like, oh, okay, here's the How to Disappear part.
So how do you think? So is that in Say or is that in Ghost of My Hero?
In Ghost of My Hero.
Okay.
Say.
What did you think of Say? Because I have some notes on that too. I didn't mention them, but
So Say, and I feel like this is kind of a good way to kind of describe how I was kind of feeling about the album. Instrumentally, there's a lot of cool stuff in Say. The jams are pretty good. But I kind of felt like the hooks weren't really hooking me the right way. It was a case of like, oh, this is kind of like annoying. And I feel like when you try to write a very catchy hook, that's a double-edged sword. It's either going to be really catchy and you get really into it, or it's just like, it's annoying.
It's going to be annoying, yeah. You know what that song reminded me of? The melody. Some of the melodies in that song reminded me of Genie in a Bottle by Christina Aguilera.
I don't think I know that one.
It's Christina Aguilera's like breakout hit, like back in like the late '90s, early 2000s.
It's probably a song I've heard but can't recall by name. There's a lot of songs like that that are popular.
It's her biggest hit. I mean, I don't think you listen to Christina Aguilera anyway.
I probably heard it at that time.
Yeah, but you should listen to that song and then you'll hear the melodies, or they're not the exact same, but they're similar. It kept reminding me of it. I also think that's weird that song has that, but then the breakdown of that, or the bridge of that song rather, is like kind of genty.
That's
right?
kind of the thing, yeah.
And stuff like that. So it's got like these weird elements that are kind of like standouty, but it doesn't save the song.
So that kind of leads into the main kind of issue I was finding with this album, which is, ironically enough, the vocals. Now, it's well performed. Everything about this album is well performed. The vocals are well performed, 100%. This guy's got a good voice.
I feel like there's a but coming. But
my issue is that it lacks intensity that I think it needs.
Intensity.
Now, think about this. Think about a song like Say in that genty part, or think of the way that We Are the North starts. Like, you get really into these crunchy jams, but the vocals are just very sappy. They're performed very lightly. There's really not much intensity. So you take a band like Soilwork, Symphony X, or Jack the Joker. These are all bands that have great cleans. Like let's for the Symphony X, Russell Allen, phenomenal singer. Beautiful cleans, but the intensity that he can bring to the table with screams or even just general harshes perfectly complements the way that Symphony X sounds. How they can sound really pretty and really hard and aggressive. But I feel like with this album, that intensity was completely missing from the vocal performance.
That's a good point.
And
it really is.
It was dragging down some of these songs and kind of making them confused, like, what is it trying to do here? Is it trying to be hard or not as hard? I'm not quite sure. So I feel like instrumentally, they're doing that, but vocally, it's not really complementing that with it. Cold Dreams has the guest harshes, and it makes that song more interesting. I wish the rest of the album had more vocal diversity like that.
Yeah.
I think We Are the North is the one that has that single scream after the hook. So I'm like, okay, cool, that's cool. Now there's something at the ending that I thought was a little bit weird. He goes up the scale with his voice, and then when he hits the tonic, he doesn't go up, he goes down. And it sounds weird. He goes, my throat's
Not a singer.
my throat's been messed up lately. I've got the sniffles.
But I know what you mean.
He goes up, and then he goes all the way down. And I thought that was weird. And I'm like, well,
I like that kind of playful stuff.
I'm thinking to myself, though, like, if he goes up to the upper tonic, would that sound a little bit weird against the hard crunching riff?
Yeah.
It probably would. My idea? Scream.
Yeah.
I feel like you go up.
You're getting to that point already. You might as well just do it.
Yeah, you go up the scale, and like to finish with that crunchy riff. That would be a sick way to end that song. I think that would have been a better play than what they actually ended up doing.
I agree. You know what? You make a very good point. I think that would have gone a long way for listeners. But just to counter argue it, I don't think that's what they're going for in their sound. I think that's why they hold it back and they don't do that. It's not that they don't think about it probably or don't want to do it. It's just that that's not the sound they're after. They're after a more calm type of vibe. And
but it's hard to really say that when the instrumentation is not calm.
The instrumentation gets there, but the vocals don't. It's like, you
exactly.
either go all the way or don't do it at all.
Exactly. It feels like you've got kind of two concepts that are contrasting against each other. They're not blending properly.
Yeah.
So it's like you've got this hard, crunchy riff, let out the scream at the end of the song. And it's not like you're gonna not make the song accessible anymore. Non-metalheads are okay with some screams here and there, or some styles of screams.
Right.
So I think that probably would have been a better choice for the ending of that song there. So a song like Misfortune is a song that had some of the bite that I wanted, especially with the gang vocals in the chorus. That's one of my favorite tracks from the record, and that's the one that kept standing out like, yeah, this is a good one, I like this one.
Yep.
So, but that was kind of the issue I was having. It was, this vocal performance was kind of just not really suiting the music as well as it could have, despite it sounding good. This singer sounds good, he's got a good voice. But I find that even so, a lot of the hooks and stuff, they were kind of going back and forth on some tracks, like, oh, these ones kind of annoy me, these ones don't. So it kind of felt like some of these songs felt a little bit like a chore, but it's not like they were bad or super poorly performed or anything.
No.
It was a well put together album, very accessible. I just kind of feel like maybe there might even be more albums that are also accessible that are overall just better.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a weird thing I was having with this album, because I'm like, okay, I like some of this stuff, but I feel like it's just kind of hurting itself.
All right, well, I'm ready to rate the album. So I would say, songs like Falling from the Sun, Misfortune, One Heart was a pretty good song, The Night Within. These are all good tracks, but there was just something about them. Maybe the stuff you were talking about that just really prevented them from becoming playlist-worthy songs. And then the ones I mentioned, the 6 songs I mentioned earlier, that are kind of just come-and-go songs, really makes this album kind of a toss-up for me. So I gotta land right in the middle with my scoring. It's gonna get a 5.
So as I said, I feel like there's some cool stuff here, but at the same time, the album almost doesn't know what it's trying to do. But at the same time, it's accessible, it's well performed. I think you could put it on and enjoy a thing here or there.
Oh yeah.
But it's kind of back and forth. So I'm gonna match Vile Self's score and give this one a 5 for my rating.
All right, guys, so that's it for this review. Theories of Emptiness gets a double 5 on the channel. So as usual, we want to hear from you guys and let us know if you guys are Evergrey fans. And we know there's some of you guys that are Evergrey fans that are saying, well, we can't wait to hear what you guys think after a week. We're probably going to disappoint some people. We're being kind of harsh critics, but that's just what we do here. So we want to know your thoughts after a week of what kind of score you'd give this album, and comparing it to maybe other Evergrey albums. Is this a weak one in their discography? Maybe it's a strong one. Sound off down below and let us know what you guys think. But that's it for this video, so subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
We'll see you guys on the next one.